The Hammer A341 planer thicknesser. After 4 months of usage, I'm going to tell you what I really think of it. So a little over the 2 weeks that I promised in my first review video, I'll put a link up above and down below the description. So the A341, 4 months worth of usage. And if you remember from that previous video, I was a little starstruck when I got it first, a bit overawed. And now I've really had a chance to get to know it and get to use it and find out where its foibles are. So in no particular order, number one, the footprint. Whilst I realised that having a 410mm width bed also came with extended tables, and I allowed for that extra footprint in the workshop, I didn't realise that I would need additional space in the back. At the back of the fence, there's a guard plate that when you bring the fence forward, that guard plate, quite rightly, covers the planer head. The downside of that fixed solid plate is that when you push the fence all the way back, the plate sticks out the back. The projection out the back is around 330mm. So that's quite an amount to have to bring the planer forward of the wall for. And a little bit annoying, not the end of the world, just a mild annoyance, I suppose. Point number two, when you raise and lower the thickness in bed table, once you've got it to the position you need it to be in, you've got to lock this wee handle. And it's a pain in the neck. It just really annoys me. There's a locking handle on it because it's a single column support that raises and lowers the table, but it's just an extra something that I've got to do. I already intensely dislike having to raise and lower the table every time I change it from planer mode to thicknessing mode. It can be an absolute nuisance if you've partway in a project discovered that you've got another piece that you need to do, or you've forgotten a piece, which is usually what happens to me. My fault, I know, but if I didn't have to continually raise and lower the table to switch between planer mode and thicknessing mode, it wouldn't be so much of an issue. And that's the primary reason that I kept my DeWalt thicknesser, so that on narrower pieces I haven't got to worry about raising and lowering the table all the time and then locking it off every time I want to put a piece through. If you don't lock the bed, you'll get snipe at the beginning and the end of the piece. If you do lock the bed, there is no snipe. So you could really call that an issue cancelled out by a benefit. The lack of snipe is superb, is it not? Point number three, the locking handles. In order to lock the surfacing bed back in place again, you push the handle in and then you turn it, and there's like a cam mechanism where you don't lock the handle off until it stops. There isn't a solid positive registration that you wind the handle to. You just nick it up, I believe was the phrase the support technician used. And if you over tighten it, you can cause damage, which apparently I have, and I'll show you that now. When you lower the surfacing bed, the bed itself engages on these two raised lugs, nut tops, bolts, whatever you want to call them, dome-topped nuts, bolts even. Get on with it, Graham. If you tighten the handle down too much, which engages in this bit, then you pull the tabletop down on top of these and cause indentations to occur in these two registration plates. So these are the two registration plates that sit on top of the two domed top bolts that I mentioned earlier. And I believe you can just see those two indentations there and there. So if you can imagine the merest change in the height of the bolt, and that indentation there, caused apparently by me over tightening this handle, altered the placement of the table and therefore set it out of coplanar. So the only reason I noticed that something was wrong was because my pieces were coming out boated, so overplaned at the front, overplaned at the back, hardly touched in the middle, so boated at the bottom. Excuse me. So I rang Hammer Felder Tech Support in Milton Keynes, and they said it sounds as if your tables have gone out of coplanar. So I said, okay, is that a technician thing or a me thing? And this bit, I found, I mean, I can understand why they do it, but I was a little bit disappointed that they said, oh, you've had your machine for more than 30 days, so the tables are now no longer covered by warranty. And it's always disappointing when you hear that, isn't it? It would be much better if that was made plainly obvious, blatantly obvious up front. Do you realize, sir, that if you buy this machine, the coplanar aspect of your tables or any aspect of the planar surfacer tables will be covered under warranty for 30 days? Well, if you knew that in the beginning, then surely you would check everything and make sure it's absolutely hunky-dory before the 30-day period expired, not finding out 4 months later. Anyway, it's not an opportunity to rant. So in order to adjust the coplanar aspect of the table, quite a little fight ensued. In here, there's a locking nut and an Allen key adjustment, and there's also the same under there and in under the back there. And obviously these are the adjustment on the front. So in order to get to the adjustment mechanisms that I just pointed out, this panel comes off with these two bolts. Then this whole back panel's got to come off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws at the back. Then you've got to raise the table and take off 2 that are inside here, and then this panel comes off, and then you can get to the lock-in adjustment mechanisms under that hinge there and there. These 2 bolts at the back here were absolutely lock solid and took quite a bit of effort to loosen. And then the process was as typically painful as adjusting anything with 2 points there supporting that entire length is going to be. The tiniest fraction of adjustment needs to be made, and then you need to check it again. And the process of checking it was quite simple. You take a precision 2-meter straight edge and lay it across the top. Do you have any idea how much a 2-meter precision straight edge costs? I looked it up. The best price I could find was 800 quid. So I decided to go with my trusty Stabilia 6-foot spirit level. And I checked it merely with a set of feeder gauges, seeing how far it was out that way up and how far it was out that way up, and it was pretty close. So I decided to use that. I've got a couple of others that they weren't quite so good. And the technician said, don't do it by feeder gauge. That's not the way to do it. The way you need to do it is to look at the amount of light that's coming through and find out whether the level pivots on the center or whether it's supported along the whole edge. And it was quite fiddly and time consuming and frustrating, because I didn't think I should have to do that to a planer thicknesser of that cost in that short a period of time. But apparently, as I said before, that was my fault for over tightening this handle. So with those few points mentioned, you may be getting the feeling now that I'm not best pleased with my purchase. I'm delighted with my purchase. This was apparently my fault. Okay, well, I've rectified that, so we're back on with it again. The bit at the back of the table, you could also claim that's my fault. I should have researched it a bit more and discovered that. I certainly knew that was going to be the case with the Axminster machine, because you took the fence off and you slid it onto a shelf behind the planer. So is that Hammer's fault? Debatable. The locking handle on the planer, on the thicknesser bed, again, I should have known, I suppose, and it shouldn't have been a surprise. The planer outperforms my expectations, both in noise level, in the finish it provides, and in the width of stock that I can push through it. So there is one final downside to owning this machine, and I did have a fleeting thought about it before I pressed the button and ordered it, but I thought I'd be all right. I'm kind of all right as long as I don't try to take off too much in one time. My dust extractor can't cope with the amount that this machine can throw out. If I plane a 8 inch board at up to a mil, then my dust extractor can cope. If I have a full width, a 400 mil piece, and I try to take half a mil off, my dust extractor will get backed up. And this is an Axminster extractor. I'll put the model of it down there somewhere. So I'm currently trying to find a way to increase throughput on that, but that's for another video. So I'll wrap this up by just confirming the fact that I am still delighted with this machine. I think I found a few idiosyncrasies, and you find them pretty much with any tool that you buy. It's part of building the relationship with the kit that you've got in your workshop. So I still think this is a great purchase, and if I were placed in the same position again in the near future, I would buy this again without a shadow of a doubt. So I hope this video has been of some interest to you and will aid you in your quest for finding the perfect, in inverted commas, I don't believe I did that, the perfect planer thicknesser for your workshop. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Ta-ra.